In his relatively short career spanning just 9 features, Quentin Tarantino has managed to create some of the most eccentric experiences in film history. Tarantino's films experiment with everything: structure, stereotypes, and the limits of censorship, often becoming the misfits of their respective genres. Whereas most filmmakers religiously follow the blueprints developed by screenwriting gurus, Tarantino splits his stories into chapters like a novel. Whereas others like their dialogue as sharp as humanly possible, Tarantino has his characters cite 4-page monologues and have overlong conversations about the strangest of topics.
Through the valley of darkness.
The elements that go into a Tarantino film are extremely enigmatic, and yet somehow, the final product never ceases to feel inevitable. Like it's impossible to seriously consider contemporary film and not think about Pulp Fiction or Kill Bill. They feel like cornerstones, not just within the medium, but also in pop culture. But fame doesn't come without critique, and throughout his career, Tarantino has certainly received his fair share. Most notably for appropriation, racial slurs, and his excessive use of violence that he still hasn't quite justified.
Much gruesome, graphic violence. Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Chan. Get it?
When asked why he wouldn't be watching Tarantino's 2012 film Django Unchained, fellow filmmaker Spike Lee stated, "American slavery was not a Sergio Leone Western. It was a Holocaust. My ancestors are slaves stolen from Africa. I will honor them." Similarly, on more than one occasion, actor Samuel L. Jackson found himself defending Tarantino against accusations of racism. It seemed somehow inconceivable that a white filmmaker would make a movie where the most despicable character is a black slave. But personally, I've never identified Tarantino from any of these concerns. In fact, I don't believe that they even cross his mind. To me, Tarantino has always been about one thing: catharticism. Tarantino is obsessed with mending trauma and fixing history. He does this on a narrative level in Pulp Fiction, where after killing Vincent Vega, he later brings the character back and even gives him a happy ending. He does it in a socio-political level in Inglourious Basterds and Django by enabling characters that have been historically oppressed in real life and film alike. He even does it in real life by casting actors that are way past their prime into career-defining roles. He casted then washed out Travolta despite interest from massive stars such as Daniel Day-Lewis. Despite the rough exterior of his films, Tarantino is remarkably kind to both his actors and his characters. Kind to a point where he's willing to bend the actuality of historical events just to give them their happy ending. But where does that leave him in terms of accusations such as the one by Lee? Does a filmmaker have the right to tackle events as sensitive as slavery or the Holocaust if he himself isn't, for example, Jewish or a representative of the historically disenfranchised? And perhaps most importantly, does he have the right to make them so distinctly his? Well, like I said, I don't believe that Tarantino has ever approached any of his subjects with a political interest. Film critic Roger Ebert said it the best in his 2004 review of Kill Bill. Quentin Tarantino is so effortlessly and brilliantly in command of his technique that he reminds me of a virtuoso violinist. The movie is not about anything at all except the skill and humor of its making. It's kind of brilliant. And the same applies for everything else that Tarantino has done. His films are all about the humor of their making and viewing. They don't ask to be taken as serious cinema, but as fun. They want to give you a pleasure that you've never gotten from anywhere else. And that includes his approach to trauma. No one would expect a film about the Nazi oppression to end with Hitler and the leadership of the Nazi regime being shot and burned to death. Or a slave film to look like this.
I like the way you die, boy.
Or the Manson attack on Roman Polanski's house to end with a completely non-existing character light the Manson family up with a flamethrower. As previously stated, Tarantino is all about mending trauma. He wants to give you the chance to see that genre that you missed from your childhood but that just isn't being made in Hollywood anymore. Or maybe never had been. He wants you to see a Jewish woman kill Hitler, to see a former slave dress up how he wants and take revenge on his old masters, and to watch Sharon Tate walk off to the happy ending that she never saw in real life. Tarantino's view on filmmaking is very tailistic. In his world, everyone is capable of making a film for as long as they respect the form enough.
If you truly love cinema with all your heart and with enough passion, you can't help but make a good movie.
In Tarantino's world, no actor that is worthy will ever fall off, and no character that has earned the audience's love will die in vain, even if they did in real life. Tarantino is defined by his subversion, but his subversion is always motivated by audience enjoyment. So what lesson should we take from him? mainly that of how boundless the nature of film really is. It doesn't have to be tied down by chronological narratives, realism, or even historical accuracy. It can be written in chapters like a novel, steal from any work that inspires it, and sound just as absurdly awesome as it wants to.
I want you to go in that bag and find my wallet.
Which one is it?
It's the one that says bad motherfucker.
Comparing Inglourious Basterds to, for example, Schindler's List is a losing game, because the two are not the same in the least. One is a deeply personal retrospective on the oppressed history of a people, and the other is, well...
Buongiorno.
Schindler's List is no doubt a historically significant masterpiece, a portrait of a century-defining event that should never be forgotten. But every now and then you just need a little bit of that other stuff. To see the historically disenfranchised rise and gain victories over their oppressors. To see the slave take on his old masters. To see the Manson family fail on that fateful night. Simply saying it doesn't make it so, of course. Tarantino's films are fiction just the same as everyone else's. But for those 3 hours that you sit in a dark theater and experience them, your trauma of the real is mended.